Hi everyone, I'm Joseph and welcome to Digimon Seekers Chapter 2, which is titled Hacker Leon WWW Airline Flight 626. Now before I get into the actual part 1 of Chapter 2, I just have a quick announcement. So if anyone recalls from part 18 of Chapter 1, excuse me everyone, that was my cat, she knocked something over. I explained that I might be doing some changes to the format. I might be removing the summary section, and I have decided I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to begin these videos with the quotes I want to analyze. I'm going to do that because I think it'll help to have more of an analytical perspective for the videos. And with that being said, though, if anyone did appreciate the summary portions, please do let me know, and I'll be open to having that return. But again, so for right now, to reiterate, I'm only going to be doing the analytical portion from here on out, unless anyone asks me to return the summary part. Hopefully that makes sense. If it does not, please do let me know. With that being stated, though, let's go ahead and begin with the first quote. So the first quote that I want to look at is, you've got an early class today, don't you? Why not try getting a bit more sleep? Postman suggested. Nah, I'll just get up now. It's a boring subject, but the professor is real strict about attendance. The courses were online lectures, though you couldn't just leave the live stream running and go about your business. There were attendance checks and pop quizzes at the end, which is real pain. Do you even need to graduate at this point? You're basically an Abaddon Electronics, a DDO employee. Postman said impishly. I promised my father I'll graduate and get a job, and that's what I'm going to do. Besides, being a college student leaves me plenty of time for other things, Leon replied, like ethical hacking. Postman asked with a playful wink. So, what I like about this quote is that it's really highlighting the relationship between Postman and Leon. While it's with EG, we as the audience got to witness how EG's relationship matured, how it started from quite literally zero. They first met one another. It's quite clear that Leon and Postman already have a relationship, if not a friendship, at the very least a working relationship. And I think it's really cute, to be honest. It's really adorable. I love how Impmon, excuse me, pardon me, I'm thinking about another Digimon. I love how Postmon, I only said that because of the impish grin. I love how Postmon, he's kind of being a little bit of a bad role model here, right? Well, Leon, do you really need to go to your class, your morning class anyways? You already have your job. And what I like about Leon, and this says a lot about his characterization, is that even if Postman's true what he's stating, he meant Leon may not need to graduate because maybe he's networked enough to secure a role. The fact that Leon has made a promise, and yes, it's a promise to his father, but it's a promise that Leon is wanting to complete or fulfill. Again, I think this shows a lot, or this says a lot about Leon's character. He's very much an individual who keeps he's very much an individual who keeps other people in mind when he's doing his own actions. I think that's really cool. What I also like about this, give me a quick second. This shows how Leon is accountable. The courses were online lectures, though you couldn't just leave the live stream running and go about your business. There was attendance checks and pop quizzes at the end, which was a real pain. And this is coming after it's a boring subject, but the professor's real strict about attendance. So Leon's not making up any excuses or justification. Oh man, I'm wasting my time. It's really boring just listening to the professor. This shows us, the audience, that not only is Leon attending his classes, but he's also taking his classes pretty seriously. If he's able to address those quiz questions at the end, and he's also able to, I guess it's just an attendance check, never mind. But he's able to do the quizzes. This implies that Leon is paying attention, that he's engaged with the material. And I think that says a lot about Leon's character, especially because, we'll discuss this shortly. And the next quote I want to look at, this is from EG and Logomon. So, you're telling me you don't have your memories back yet, EG asked. My sen can only tell me so much. I remember that I was raised here and that later laid claim to this district, Logomon tentatively replied. There were mere fragments of memories without detail. I see. I hope you remember the rest someday, EG said. It doesn't matter if I do or not. Oh? Do humans want to remember everything from the past forever? Logomon pressed. I don't remember anything prior to elementary school. No. And there are things from middle and high school that I prefer not to remember either, EG admitted. He graduated high school without a job. Once he became a code cracker, he inevitably lost touch with all his friends who had continued with their education instead. I thought as much. We tend to forget the things that don't matter. Well, don't you sound all grown up and tough, E.G. snorted. So as always, what do I like about this quote? It really reinforces Logomon's characterization, his characterization that he's an individual who is curt, and is always keeping in mind what needs to be done, always keeping in mind what's required in order to help complete what needs to be done. Yes, it's fine. It's fun to remember other details, to be nostalgic, but if those memories are not going to be helpful, then maybe we shouldn't be wasting our time on trying to remember those memories, right? And I really like that about Logomon. Again, this is really a different kind of protagonist Digimon as compared to Takado's Gyomon, Tai's Agumon. Logomon closely reminds me of Gabumon and Gaomon from Digimon Adventure and Digimon Saviors. But I'd argue that the protagonist Digimon have always been Agumon, Gyomon, and Vmon. It's really awesome to have a Digimon protagonist who is very much living in the present moment, who keeps in mind that it's fine to recall the past, but not everything about the past is necessary. There were mere fragments of memories without detail. I see, I hope you remember them the rest someday, E.G. said. It doesn't matter if I do or not. What does that imply? That Logomon, he's going to fulfill his individualism by working, by acting upon the actions he wants to do now. Although it'll be fine if he does recall those memories do not define Logomon. It's what he does presently that defines him. Hopefully that makes sense. If it does not, please do let me know. Another aspect about this quote that I really like is how E.G. is being forthcoming here. There are things from middle and high school that I prefer not to remember, he admitted. And in this part, he eternally thinks to himself, he graduated high school without a job. Once he became a code cracker, he inevitably lost touch with all his friends who had continued with their education instead. So this really, I think, helps to help the audience empathize with E.G. For chapter 1, it kind of seemed like the narration implied that E.G. was a loner, an individual who was quite isolated, and it's looking like he became isolated because of the choices and decisions that he made. And it's really quite unfortunate. It makes me kind of wonder if maybe this is a commentary on Japanese culture. If one is unaware, in Japanese culture, it's not uncommon for individuals to really put their careers and education at the forefront, and at times to put their mental health on the back burner. A great example about this would be if the boss is still working, then no one else in the building leaves, or on the floor leaves, into the boss either allows the individuals to leave home for the day, or they leave themselves. Or another example would be if the boss chooses to do a work gathering after work, no one goes home until the boss goes home themselves. This might be an indicator about that. Why didn't these friends of E.G. continue communicating with E.G. despite the fact he chose not to continue his education? Maybe it's because there was misconceptions about E.G., stereotypes about E.G. Well, if he's not going to continue his college career, that obviously means that he's this type of person, a lazy individual without much goals, without much aspirations. But obviously, as the audience, we know that this is not true, right? E.G. is an individual who he does want to change the world, but he's being smart about it. He's aware that in order to change the world, he needs to work with the digital world as well and figure out a way to make those connections organically come together, and thus he'll be able to fulfill what he is trying to do. And in fact, that is something that he states here to the professor later on. He tells the professor that E.G. himself, he wants to change the world and the digital world, and he knows that with Logomon, they'll be able to do so. And in fact, the professor says, your relationship, it seems more like it's a partnership, to which E.G. really gravitates towards. He loves that description. So again, maybe this is a commentary about that. Maybe it's not. It's the detail about the story. But I did really appreciate this quote, especially the way that E.G. ends it. Well, don't you sound all grown up and tough, E.G. snorted. I don't think this is E.G. trying to be a jerk right here. He's just being playful with Logomon. But I do believe that he is astute enough to recognize that Logomon is saying some wisdom right here, some nuggets of wisdom, and maybe one should pay attention to what's being stated, right? All right, so moving on to the next quote. So this is actually right after what I just read. Actually, I'm going to read since I'm not going to do the summary, I'm just going to go ahead and read a little bit more of this quote. The next instant, 3 Pteranodon appeared in the Castle of Nine Wolves main square, surrounding them. "Oh, hi, fellas. Nice work," Iji said warmly. "Grr, growl." The Pteranodon continued vocalizing, transferring the data they gathered to Logomon in the process. I'm going to go ahead and skip. No, I'll go ahead and read this. "They managed to map out most of the 9th district and estimated the number of Digimon within its confines while they were at it. They're quite the little lackeys, aren't they?" Logomon asked, sounding rather impressed. To Iji, they were more like brothers. He tossed them a couple strips of meat as a reward. "You could be the 4th if you wanted," Iji offered. "The Pteranodon would outrank me?" Logomon snapped. Iji flashed a playful grin. "Set them to patrol the 9th district periodically. I fear that there are those foolish enough to dare invading my territory while I'm away," Logomon said. "I'll set up the routine now. Good luck out there, fellas," Iji said, painting a Pteranodon that loomed over him. The Pteranodon responded with quick, low growls. He couldn't exactly talk to them since he hadn't bothered to mind link with them, but he could tell when they were trying to communicate with him. That was new, and it felt nice. I really like this quote because So what I'm really appreciating about this writing is that I can't help but feel that it connects back to chapter 1. As a quick reminder, when we're first introduced to Iji, it really seems like he has a working relationship with the Pteranodon. He doesn't really have to have much warm feelings towards them and treats them more as items rather than as living beings. This made sense at the time. Why? As established, only a certain few individuals recognize Digimon as living, sapient, thus sentient, thus sapient beings, individuals. Before Iji came to realize that Digimon are alive, he just considered them to just be programs, objects, and that's it. I'm loving how Iji is growing as an individual. Now that he's discovering that Digimon are quite indeed sapient, that they are indeed alive, he's starting to treat Digimon differently as well. I love how he greets them warmly. He's giving them their treats, their snacks. He did imply that if they didn't do a good job, he wouldn't give them treats or snacks. But I would argue that in the past, excuse me, that was my cat again. She dropped something. I would argue that in the past, Iji couldn't feed them because he couldn't even feed himself, right? We mustn't forget that Iji he was strapped for cash. And helping Professor Rusenji is really what's allowing Iji to grow both individually and financially as well. And again, we get a little bit about that in this part towards the end. Where since Logomon was able to evolve into Logomon, the professor gives Iji a bit of a bonus, and Iji thinks to himself that he's financially secure for a little bit. He doesn't have to worry about rent nor about the bills, at least not for right now, and if it was good, right? So this really shows that Iji is a positive individual. He's a caring person. Now that he's aware that the Pteranodon are alive, he's treating them as such. And I think it's really adorable. Really quick, so now that I'm not doing that summary, I would have just began this quote from the "set them to patrol the 9th district" and then just quickly mention the petting. But I love that I'm now able to read that whole quote because I think it really ties in together quite beautifully. But what I also like about this is how Logomon, he's showing us a little bit of his egotistical self, right? Well, if I joined your posse, I'm going to be beneath them in terms of rank, right? We mustn't forget that Logomon put them into a submissive state, I believe in part 2 of part 3 when Iji first gets his linker strap, right? So I think maybe Logomon's just being playful right here. He knows he won't be the 4th one. But I love how Logomon's able to recognize that Pteranodon, they're not quote unquote useless, that they're quite able to help the group, help the individuals. They're kind of like a party. And he asks Iji to set the Pteranodon to patrol the area. I thought that was really cool. And and then lastly, just reinforcing that Iji is a warm individual. He couldn't exactly talk to them since he hadn't bothered to mind link with them, but he could now tell when they were trying to communicate with him. That was new and it felt nice. So he's encouraging that communication. He's welcoming in that new relationship that's forming. He's not being cold or distant or trying to distance himself from that. And I really do love that. So the next quote, "We stand on the firewall that protects the digital world from containment data of the real world, but of course no wall is perfect. There are small gaps and cracks, and those are the cause of the vortex you see here," Logomon explained. "The firewall protects the digital world, the gateway manages the flow of web traffic, and the wall slum is built from the wayward bits of junk data that accumulate around the gateway. But as Logomon said, no firewall is perfect. The gateway must not only the gateway must not be the only gap in the digital world's defenses. So that's coming from a hole in the digital world's security, E.G. yelled. The various puzzle pieces suddenly sliding into place exactly. We do not know when or where they will occur. Think of them as natural disasters, and that area in particular is a hotbed of vortex activity, Logomon said, slowly tracking the vortex's path. So this is a great quote that's further reinforcing world building. Well, I was about to say we, but I really mean myself. When I got to chapter 2, I thought that for the most part we were done discovering new details about the surface level of the digital world, the wasdom that they're currently traveling in. As it turns out, though, there's more information about the digital world that's being divulged upon the audience, and it's really awesome. The digital world is a bit of a dangerous place. It kind of reminds me of the digital world from Tamers. If one recalls, there'll be random storms that will suck individuals up and send them to a different part of the digital world. Obviously, this is a lot worse. Why is it worse? We'll look at that in a second when they explain the vortex in fuller detail. But I just really appreciating this world building that's occurring. I do feel like there's the real world, and then there's also the digital world, Waslum, the 9th Street, Castle and Nine Wolves, and now we have these, as Logomon describes them in the quote shortly, as natural occurrences, kind of like tornadoes or earthquakes or sinkholes, right? To be a little bit more one-for-one with a more apt analogy, sinkholes, right? They just appear and suck everything in. So let's go ahead and continue. Well, actually, before, what I like about this quote as well is that it really breaks down what's going on in the digital world, the hierarchy or the place, the governing systems, quote unquote, that's in place currently that we're aware of. So the firewall protects the digital world, the gateway manages the flow of web traffic, and the Waslum was built from that data that spilled. Waslum was built from the data that was spilling from that gateway, the gateway that belongs to the firewall. I'm really enjoying this interconnectedness. I think it's really awesome. So moving on to sticking to the vortex. So E.G. asks Logomon about the vortex. The data that the Waslum cannot hold spills out from the rusted coast into the real world like so much garbage. As you have a, what is it called? A garbage patch in your ocean, so too do we in ours. I do not know why the current carries it all there, but there it remains, a floating island of refuse, Logomon said gravely. That's awful. Over there, meanwhile, is the Dust Kingdom. We're not even the scavenger Digimon of the 5th District there to tread. It's full of garbage data, and we're yet to determine whether that data is the cause of the Dust Kingdom's corruption. Care to elaborate? The corruption is multifaceted. The corruption is multifaceted and faceted. I cannot pronounce that currently. The corruption is multifaceted and it creates vortexes. The vortexes are generally short-lived. Every so often, a particularly large one forms. On rare occasions, they even threaten the Waslum directly. What happens then? The vortex is right before their eyes now, grazing the shores of the Waslum. An immense war filled the air as they watch it tear up the section of the Waslum, breaking apart the data as it sucked into its vast void. Its district is completely erased, including all the Digimon who live there, Logomon said solemnly. So we see how this vortex, although it's slightly similar to the tornadoes present in Digimon Tamers, is a lot more dangerous. There's varying degrees of the vortexes. They always displace information, but they also have the capability to completely delete or erase a district and the Digimon living within it as well. That is quite a scary thought to keep in mind. But before I continue, what also seems to be implied here, I'm not going to lie, we might have a bit of an issue with the translation. What seems to be implied here is that in the same way that the real world has that garbage patch in our island, in the digital ocean, there also seems to be a patch of garbage data where Digimon do live. And this garbage data is known as the Dust Kingdom. So now that they're just being introduced, so kind of like maybe like another continent, another island maybe. But now that they're just being introduced, more than likely we'll for sure be getting more information about the Dust Kingdom. That'll be really interesting to see why apparently Digimon from the 5th District, not even they go out to the Dust Kingdom. I'm going to assume that the 5th District is probably a lot more like a slump than the other slums of the digital world, the surface level of the digital world. So that's why specifically the 5th District is being mentioned. But yeah, Continuing forward, what happens when you get sucked into the vortex? If it really is a hole in the digital world's firewall, does it take you into the depths of the digital world or something? E.g. asked, furrowing his brow. If there was a wall and the wall had a hole in it, then there must be something on the other side of the wall, right? First of all, we don't know what's beyond. We don't call what's beyond the other wall. Sorry, excuse me. Let me start over. First of all, we don't call what's beyond the wall another layer or the depths. And besides, it's an impossible question to answer, Logomon said, shaking his head. What makes you say that? E.g. pressed. The digital world cannot know peace so long as a hole in the firewall remains open. If a human from your world were to make use of one and reach, as you called it, the depths of the digital world, Logomon let the thought hang in the air. What would happen? E.g. asked, swallowing hard. Your corporal form might survive, but your consciousness would not. Under no circumstances would digital world system administrator abide an intruder from the real world. So obviously these past 3 quotes were really pertaining to these vortexes, and it's looking like these vortexes, maybe something is causing them. Maybe it's not a natural occurrence. Right now it's seeming like it is a natural occurrence, but it wouldn't surprise me if we're going to get more information about these vortexes. And then in addition to that as well, this fact that there's the hole in the firewall, the fact that it's being mentioned that what can occur if a human were to touch and reach into it, it makes me question if maybe in the future one of the characters will be doing that, either for positive reasons, maybe to help protect the digital world, or more than likely for nefarious reasons. They want to do something, control, dominate the digital world, make it submersive in some way, right? Submersive. No, excuse me. Make it submissive in some way, not submersive. Sorry about that. Well, actually, now I'm confusing myself. Let me look it up really quickly. Sorry, everyone. Yeah, submissive, not. Yeah, excuse me, everyone. Sorry about that. Obviously, it's a little bit too early in the morning for me. And now also, I lost my place. Oh no! Give me a quick second, everyone, and thank you for your patience. Yeah, so that's essentially everything I wanted to discuss about the vortex. It seems like it's a really powerful, destructive element of the digital world, and it makes me wonder what else is going to occur with this device. With this, I was thinking of it more as a narrative device, but what else is going to occur with this phenomenon within the digital world? So moving on to the next quote. Now let's go, Logomon said sharply. Go where? Don't go where me. You're the one who set the reminder, and now you've been reminded. That was enough to jog Ichi's memory. Time flies when you're mind linking. Oh shoot, my appointment with Professor Ruzenji, he shouted. Ichi severed the mind link and returned to reality. I just think this quote is really cute. It just reinforces. So obviously, Logomon does not mind working with Ichi as a partner, but he's also reminding Ichi, we're partners, but I'm not your secretary, dang it. I'm not your secretary, damn it. You asked me to remind you, I just did. And now the responsibility is on you, right? So when more than likely when it's stated, you're the one who set the reminder, e.g. probably used the linker strap to set an alarm, but Logomon, kind of like PETs and the net navis from Mega Man Battle Network, but unlike the net navis, Logomon's reminding e.g. that he needs to have some accountability, he needs to have some responsibility for his own choices. In this instance, he set a reminder for what? A meeting. Now he needs to get to that meeting. So I just really like it. So moving on to the next quote. This is E.G. speaking with Professor Ruzenji. This Digimon, he can talk in the real world too, E.G. blurted excitedly. Once you've mind linked with the Digimon, you're able to talk with You're able to talk to them from that point on. Let me start over. Once you mind link with the Digimon, you're able to talk Excuse me, everyone. I'm sorry. Once you mind link with the Digimon, you're able to talk to them from that point onward. The professor calmly replied, "Yes, even after the mind link was severed. So there are more talking Digimon and DDL, is what you're saying." E.G. prodded, extrapolating from the professor's idle past trials comment. That, as you know, is classified. D4. Professor Ruzenji answered by way of indirect confirmation. DDL was AE's bleeding edge research laboratory. So give me a quick second. I wanted to read the past trials portion since we're not going to do the summary. So this is a little bit above what I just read. I've been monitoring your vitals through the Digimon linker, and I haven't noticed anything unusual. Even looking at past trials, I don't think we need to be concerned so long as a bit of rest. So long as a bit of rest was enough to help you recover. So that, as a quick context, E.G. explains that he does feel a bit ill after he's finished a mind link. And in fact, the first time he finished a mind link, when he went back to the real world, he was feeling really nauseous to the point where he almost threw up. And that's why Professor Richard states, well, in past trials, everything seems A-okay, and your past vitals as well, and everything seems fine as long as you rest. So that's what the past trials was referring to. So as always, what does this quote do? It reinforces E.G.'s astuteness. He's able to determine or extrapolate, as the narrative states, that how interesting are there other talking Digimon within this facility. So again, just a quick, just another example, not a quick example, another example of E.G.'s lack of silliness, lack of naivety. When he wants to be, he could be really assertive, really astute. And then in addition to that, what I like about this quote is because I was really maybe concerned is the wrong word, but I even recall in a previous video where I stated that are the Digimon going to be like the dragons from Game of Thrones / House of the Dragons / The Song of Ice and Fire. What I meant by that, the dragons do not talk, but they're able to communicate. They're sentient. They are alive, right? They're able to have relationships with their riders. The reason why I was having this thought in my mind is because before E.G. Mind Links, none of the Digimon were talking. They were all quiet, doing their own thing, and the humans were speaking for them. So it's really awesome, because I'm not going to lie, as a longtime Digimon fan, it was a little bit awkward thinking that maybe these Digimon will not be talking whatsoever. That maybe Bandai Namco were trying to create a world where Digimon were a little bit more realistic, maybe not realistic is the right word, but a little bit more akin to Pokemon. Or maybe that's a horrible example as well, right? Because Pokemon just repeat their names. But hopefully one knows what I'm trying to explain. That the Digimon from Seekers are going to be more akin to dragons / animals of our world, rather than talking individuals with their own goals and aspirations. And it's awesome to know that the reason why the Digimon were not talking is because those humans have not mind linked with Digimon. So I really am loving this connection, this really emphasis on the relationship between the Digimon and the human partner. Yeah, so I'm double checking that's everything I wanted to look at. And then the next quote, it turns out Logomon used to live right there in the 9th district. We're right back in his old stomping grounds. You knew that already, didn't you? E.G. asked slyly. Well, DDL collected, the professor began, choosing his words carefully, Logomon from the Waslim all those years ago, to keep him safe. Safe from, E.G. asked expectantly, that's classified. So again, reinforces that E.G. is aware, he's able to deduce and come up with conclusions. He's not making assumptions, he's creating deductions. And it's interesting to know that, well, the professor was aware where the Logomon came from originally. He collected him, right? Collected him for what reason? To protect him from what we don't know. So it's really exciting. I remember from chapter 1, I was a little bit concerned that the professor would end up being a bit of an antagonistical force. But with chapter 2, I don't think that's going to be the route that they being the writers are going to take. And I'm really happy to see that. It's really looking like the professor is a good individual. And I do believe that the professor is the person who's working, the mentor figure who is working with Leon. But I guess we'll see that in the next part. Going on to the next quote, we're almost done to 2 more quotes, including this one. I'm sure you're aware, but we have observed errors and gaps in Logomon's memory. What we call amnesia in humans, the professor continued. Yeah. It's possible that, as he remembers more, he will suffer bouts of mental anguish. If and when he does, e.g., I want you to be there for him. It was clear from the professor's gentle tone of voice that he cared deeply for Logomon. The little creature wasn't just some AI program to him. Like all Digimon, this pup was worthy of love and protection. You got it. E.G. looked over at Logomon, who was still curled up on the sofa. Whereas E.G. was hollow-eyed in the digital world, here in the real world, it was the other way around. When I was hollow-eyed in the digital world, I think I started to understand Logomon a bit better. Like how Digimon feel, I guess. So this really emphasizes or really reiterates that the professor does have a real soft spot for Digimon. The reason why excuse me everyone, sorry, let me drink some water really quickly. Pardon me about that, thanks for your patience though. So again, the reason why the professor is willing to work with other individuals with code crackers is because he wants to keep Digimon safe. So I just really like that. I'm not going to lie, I'm being a bit biased. I do like the professor's character, his characterization, hence why I want to read another quote that emphasizes his good-naturedness. And this quote also Also reiterates how EG again is a determined individual. After he hears the professor's concern and EG is able to recognize how this concern is genuine, EG wants to comfort the professor. Don't worry, professor, you got it. I'll make sure to take care of Logomon as he regains his memories. Yeah. So the last quote I want to look at, a code cracker. So really quickly, context. The professor asks CG who is the higher up individual he's going to meet through the SOC of the Sons of Chaos, and EG responds, a code cracker. His name's Marvin, I think. I've only ever messaged him. Marvin, the songsmith. You certainly weren't kidding about meeting the higher ups. Professor Rizenji really took such great interest in people, so this caught EG's attention. Is he famous or something? He writes and cracks code as a virtuoso plays their instrument. He's one of the lead developers on the app you all use, Grim. That's the one. That makes him one of the leading software engineers in the world. Grim protects its financial and social media services with extremely robust security. People the world over trust it implicitly. If you work for or run an upstanding business, however, you can't use Grim for official business. Why? Rumor has it that it's developed and run by volunteer code crackers. That said, all manner of public institutions and armies reach for Grim out of sheer convenience, which naturally causes all sorts of information security problems. Oh, so he's huge. The leader Tartarus might even be waiting on the other side of Marvin's door, eh? EG mused. Be careful, EG. You're a spy. Never forget that. You must operate in the SOC's inner circles without blowing your cover. I would prefer that you have a long career, the professor cautioned. Yes, sir. So, again, we just got reminded that the professor has a soft spot towards Digimon, but we're also reminded that the professor is a bit of a, what's the word? Oh no, I'm having a lapse of judgment. An individual who hates society, but not to that extreme. A misanthrope. It's looking like maybe it's possible that the professor has elements of misanthropy. Why? Well, because he doesn't like people. He seems to have a low regard of humans, but I don't think he's truly a misanthrope. So one is truly a misanthrope. Excuse me. They do their best to remove themselves from any kind of social encounters or instances. But obviously, this is not the professor. Again, he's willing to work with other people. But when I say misanthrope, he might have elements in that he's doesn't have a lot of respect or patience with humans and the things that they do. But again, despite that, how does this quote end? Be careful, EG. You're a spy. Never forget that. You must operate in the SOC's inner circles without blowing your cover. I would prefer that you have a long career. Yes, one could argue that he's saying this because without EG, the professor won't be able to protect the Digital monsters, the Digimon. But I do believe that the professor does care about EG as well. He cares about his well-being. And we see evidence of this from Chapter 1 when the professor treats EG so kindly and so friendly. So again, this quote really emphasizes different elements about the professor, how he's aware and informed, even about elements he may not appreciate, such as humans and specific humans. This is shown through Marvin, the songwriter. The professor is able to explain who he is to EG. And then in addition to that, he also reminds EG to be careful. Why? Well, because the professor cares about EG. And of course, he cares about the goal or the mission of EG to infiltrate the Sons of Chaos and thus Tartarus. And then lastly, I almost forgot about this. And then the really interesting component about this quote is Grim. So now we're discovering that Grim is made by individuals from the SOC. And not only that, but apparently up to this point, I knew that Grim wasn't an official use, but I thought most countries and nations and individuals were utilizing it because it was so popular. But I didn't realize that Grim was first created by a code cracker in the first place. If that was detailed in the beginning, I may have just forgotten that or maybe accidentally glossed over that. That's really interesting. So I think that's a great detail to further reinforce. I think as of right now, it seems like Sons of Chaos is being set up as the antagonistical force. But I truly believe that eventually there's going to be some understanding from both sides, and the Sons of Chaos, or at least individual members from the Sons of Chaos, will end up working with our protagonists, with Leon and EG. That's really interesting to think about too as well, because, oh no, I should probably read that part because I believe there's some code crackers who do use Digimon for cyber terrorism. and supposedly the Sons of Chaos were at fault for that plane crash. It wouldn't surprise me as it turns out it was another group or individual who did that, and the Sons of Chaos were trying to prevent that crash in the first place. It's really interesting as well that this chapter 2, has the name of the plane crash, WWW Airlines Flight 626. So yeah, I truly believe we're going to get more information about the Sons of Chaos. We're going to discover it's not as black and white as we first believed. Same thing with Leon as well. For right now, he's going to be working away from EG, but eventually they will be working together as partners. Our classic Yamato, Taichi combo, Takato, Henry, and then Rika. We'll include her because it was only 3 individuals, and because, well, all 3 of those members were awesome. Davis number. Well, TK and Kyrie. There we go. For season 2, TK and Kyrie. And then even from Savers, we have Masaru and Toma. Of course, you should know as well. Like with Tamers, I'm going to include her since it's a small cast. Oh no, but I mustn't forget. Well, yeah, I'm going to include those as the examples of the Yamato / Taichi pairing. More than likely, that's going to be our EG and Leon pairing, right? The Yamato / Taichi pairing. Hopefully that makes sense. If it does not, please do let me know. So again, thank you so much for joining me in this video for part 2 of, chapter 2, part 1 of Digimon Seekers. Let me read the title fully once again, just for fun. Chapter 2, part 1. Sorry, excuse me, that's a hiccup. Let me start that over. Chapter 2, part 1, Hacker Leon, WWW Airline Flight 626. Again, if anyone wants me to bring back the summary portion, please do let me know. But for right now, my plan is to get the quotes that I want to look at and focus on those and give context when needed. Thank you so much. Have a prodigious day and take care. I do appreciate you guys following along with me. Please share with me your opinions and thoughts and your own theories about what will be coming up in the future parts as well. Thank you.